Cassava, a very important crop in our country. Arguably, a crop with a lot of potential, a lot of uses. Its industrialization will mean a lot to Ghana's economy. If the relevant stakeholders put in the necessary measures to ensure that this crop does justice to Ghana's economy, of course, it will be good for everyone. I hope you enjoy this discussion. My name is Prince Apia. Thank you for staying with us.
We're 12 cities, we're 8 cities. Remember dear sister? Say.
Mamia Kos sells cassava flour, also known as kokonte, at the Kumasi Central Market in the Ashanti region. The business is not picking up as it used to anymore because of the challenges with the type of cassava used.
Konkonte, na mekoto. Mekoto no abofo oju. Abofo. Abofo. Eho konkonte no wo ho pa. Ebi di firisrem na eba dwa adwom ho beto. Na obi nso hata no wa ha. Onkurase. Omo hata no omo de abadwom abeto. Na mekyere sa fe na konkonte no bo obeyedin. Say last year say konkonte no bo yedin kura ma boto no. Me to bi 6 million. Last year ensu tobre na ensu no to na ewia mmo na o ma hata enti konkonte me to bi 6 million. Oh sanka nanka wose ye to nyese na ensu tobre na sa time no kura no na boto no ye 2.5 na 3 million. Enti ensu no si form dia say ensu woto a konkonte na bo na bekosoro. Ensuo no to a ensuo awia na de sa na ema ni nyina ba awia no ensuo no to sa nti wo hata wo gu ho a na ensuo na jem no asesa ti sa na konkonte no so ye wo hwie gu ho sa wo hata ensuo no jem a wo sesa firi ho no nti sa na enema no ye nya awia ema no emma ti nipa no kakra bi ono so beton na boden esansa wo su na hia wonti wo beto se hia wo de na ne board ni a wo be jai to no akọ be le hia wo nti wo beto sa ne board no ayeden a se we sei wo mo sa tumu a na me kofa ba se lole fe ne nikenika na me koyam ye na agi ye nti wo se me digi be 3 cities so ti se enema no ekosoro a ne bo okosoro eba fom a na ne bo na ba fom mimi se ekosoro a metum me de bi ka ho eba fom a meteso sa na de na tie be ye mfie mienu komensa de ebo no de ejina so.
The type of cassava used for flour these days have perhaps not been the appropriate ones. Though experts continue to describe cassava as a green gold, the impact cannot be felt along the value chain. Dr. Joe Menu Edueni is a senior roots and tuber scientist and a plant breeder at the Crops Research Institute of the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research.
Yeah, the cassava industry now is growing very, very fast. Until 2007, most of the cassava grown in Ghana were the local ones, which are the land races, because the major market at that time was for local food preparation. But coming out of what the former President Kufuor established at Podriasi, which is the PSI, yes, it opened the market for people to look at how best they can process cassava into different products. And with the coming in of President Akufo-Addo and his economic team, they realized that Ghana could make a lot of money in cassava production and processing. And so now the market is focusing mainly on processing of cassava into different products like flour, starch for industrial uses. People are also still processing cassava into gari and other food uses. But now the focus is moving gradually from gari into flour, starch for industrial uses. So that is what farmers and stakeholders in the cassava industries are now looking at and trying to focus their attention on, so that we can develop the cassava just like we have developed the cocoa in Ghana. And some of us believe that if equal attention is given to cassava, within the next 5 to 10 years, cassava will overtake cocoa in terms of the agricultural gross domestic products for the country. So the future is very bright as far as the cassava industry is concerned. Yeah.
You talk about the...
He says new varieties developed by the Institute is gradually changing the narrative of the cassava processing industry if adapted properly.
There are several areas that we can focus on, but primarily we should look at, well, developing varieties that are high yielding. Because if you go out to compete with the international community, you know, cassava is not only grown in Ghana. Ghana is the number 3 producer of cassava in Africa and the 5th in the world, which means there are other players out there and they are all producing cassava. Some of them are expanding, well, the land areas. Others are using, well, the products, the varieties to increase yields. And Ghana, where do we stand? So the other option is to look at the varieties that will produce high yields per unit area. And that is what we are focusing our attention now. And once the scientists are able to achieve that, then the next step will be for the farmers to also buy into it. And the farmers, we should note that they are also businessmen. No farmer is now planting cassava for the sake of it. They are planting it for the different markets that are available, and then they use some or the excess to feed themselves and then their well, communities. And so we must also look at how we can convince the farmers to look at the varieties that are high yielding but cannot be used for some of our local food dishes. And so we cannot develop the industries to come and compete with the users in the local or for the households. And so the researchers have developed some varieties that we cannot use for some of the local foods, that is to or pound as fufu and eat. And for me, that is very good. It's one of the progress that we have made as far as the industry is concerned, so that we will look at how we can expand production of those materials to feed the emerging markets, the processing markets, so that will not compete with the local or food preparation. Because if the market is going to compete with another market, then you can imagine what will happen. But again, we are also mindful of the fact that we cannot only develop the varieties that will be used for processing. So alongside, we are also looking at developing some high-yielding varieties that we can also use for the local food preparation. And so the industry, yes, the prospects are very high, and we believe that if we can get the right markets, then we can advance the cassava industry to another level that will be highly beneficial to the country.
7 how. You're still watching Food Chain with me, Prince Apia, and we are in one of the chapters and 7 how the land preparation is done. This is one of the exercises where the harrower is going through a 10,000 acre land here at Tamanting, preparing the land for planting in a few days. And so that is what is happening. You see how it is creating the ridges for a large tract of planting for industrial cassava processing.
There's been evidence of demand for industrial cassava these days. As a result of this development, government through the private sector has begun pushing investment into this area.
So you are still watching Food Chain with me, Prince Apia. We are here in arguably the largest starch processing factory in West Africa, the Amanting Agro Processing Factory. And we are here to speak to the engineers and relevant stakeholders to understand what exactly happens here, how things are done, what kind of market is available for the starch processing factory, and the employment opportunities for the cassava farmers in Amanting and the surrounding communities, and even the inhabitants here. My name is Prince Apia. Stay with us. So you are still watching Food Chain with me, Prince Apia. We are here in arguably the largest starch processing factory in West Africa, the Amanting Agro Processing Factory, and we are here to speak to the relevant stakeholders. We also want to look at the market available for this particular factory. My name is Prince Apia. Stay with us.
Here is Amanting Agro Processing Company. It's a company that processes cassava into starch powder, which serves as raw material for other industries, such as pharmaceutical industries, textile industries, and others. And here I am. My name is Akufu Salas. I'm an electrical and electronic engineer here on site, and I'm here to take you through the process here. And so we will start. First, we have the weighing section. Then we have our washing section, rastering section, concentration and separation section, drying section, boiler section, and then we have our biogas section as well as our fiber press section. Those are the various sections we have when it comes to the factory here. And so first, with our weighing section, when the cassava comes, carried in whichever vehicle, we weigh the cassava in tonnage, that's in tons, with the cassava's weight and then the vehicle's weight inclusive. And after that, the vehicle offload the cassava to our offloading side. And when it's offloaded, we also let the vehicle go back, and then we take the weight that's in terms of tonnage of the vehicle alone, so that we do the deduction, that we know the actual weight of the cassava that was brought in. And when the cassava comes in, it gets into our vibrating hoppers. And from the vibrating hoppers, it comes into our short conveyor belt. And from the short conveyor belt, it gets into our long conveyor belts. These belts are purposely there to carry the cassava into our dry cleaner. And then the purpose of the dry cleaner is to remove the brownish covering of the cassava for the next stage to receive it. And then from there, it goes through the paddle washers. There are 3 paddle washing stages. The first stage wash the dirt around the cassava, and from there it goes to the second stage, also takes the dirt that's still remaining, and then the final paddle washer takes every dirt that comes with the cassava, and from there it goes to inspection belt. We have short inspection belt and then long inspection belt. The short inspection belt, it's there for people to stand by, inspect the cassava that comes to that particular belt, to see if there are no wood being carried along with the cassava, stones, anything magnet comes along with it. And sometimes the cassava also comes with a wooden part, and that wooden part, we don't want it to get into our machines. And so the people standing there, one rule they also be playing is that they'll be cutting those parts off the cassava to prepare it for the next stage. And so from the short inspection belt, it goes to the long inspection belt. And along the long inspection belt, you have a permanent magnet. And the purpose of the permanent magnet to take out or attract any magnetic material that goes along that place, so that no metal gets into the chopper as well as our rasper. And so from the long inspection belt, it goes to our chopper. And the purpose of the chopper is to cut the cassava into smaller pieces. And then we'll be having someone standing by to check from time to time to see if the chopper is cutting the cassava into the pieces that we desire. If not, the person reports for us to look at the machine that is doing the cutting. And then from the chopper, we have hoppers, a sort of carrying component that carries the cut pieces. And then those cut pieces, they go through a screw conveyor. Those screw conveyors carry the chop pieces into feed into the raspers. And then the rasper is the grinding machine that grind the cassava into the slurry that we want. And so the rasper does that, and then from there it goes through straining. That's the first. We have two types of strainers here. The first one is a stationary strainer that is stationed. It doesn't move. It stays there. The cassava just passes through them and then it strains it. So from the rotary strainer, it goes through a descending stage. And at the descending stage, the purpose of the descendants is to take out every sand that is carried as part of the slurry cassava that we have. And from the descendants, it goes straight into our sieves. The purpose of the sieve is to sieve the cassava, take out the fiber, and give us a pure starch, that a slurry starch. And then those starch goes into our buffer tanks. We have buffer tanks that carries the slurry. And then the buffer goes into also a buffer component. And from there, we have the sieving stages. We have about 5 of them. The first one, the second, the third, the fourth, and the fifth. And so the first stage sieves, it gives to a tank. The second also does to a tank. So every stage of a sieving has a tank that is connected to it. So it sieves and then it gives to the tank. But it's only the first sieve that gives us a very thick slurry. The others give us slurry, but they are not as thick as the first one. And so we only pump the first slurry into our hydrocycle, that's the separation and concentration stage. And then the others, they go into a tank we call process water tank. And that process water tank, we use those slurry that goes into the process tank to also feed back into our system so that we don't use normal water. So that we have a very high concentration of the cassava, so that we don't get it to be watery. Because at the end, we want to take water out of it, we want powder. And in that process, that's what it does. So we don't want to put normal water, but we use the slurry that's not that thick to feed back and do other parts of the process. As part of the process, we use it for the process. And that's what the concentration and then the separation part does. Okay, so inside the scraper centrifuge, it's supposed to take out the remaining percentage of water, dehydrate it to a lesser percentage. And so by the time you leave there, it's about 20% of water. Then it takes it to the drying section, where we dry it and take out every water component, leaving it about 13 to 14% of water. That is achieving our powder. And then at that side, we have a boiler that generates steam. That's hot air. And so the steam comes of about 145 degrees. It blows the starch, carrying about 20% of water. It goes through a drying process, and then it returns with only 40% of it. And when it is returning, we also have a sieve that sieves it, like the one we have in our houses, in our local diagnosis, where we sieve it. So it sieves it, and then it takes out further fiber that's inside out, and then leaves us the pure powder. Then it goes through for packaging. And then the fiber that we take out during the sieving process, we also have a fiber press section. The fiber press section, what it does is that we go there, take out water in that fiber component, and then use the fiber for poultry feeds and other purposes. And any waste that goes out of the factory, we collect them all into a tank that we use to generate gas to feed our boiler. So that at the end, we end up using less fuel and then using our own resources to also generate another source of fuel for us to use.
So right from the beginning of receiving the cassava till the starch is finally extracted, how long does it take?
For the process, every hour, it's expected that about 10 to 15 tons of powder is given out at the packaging end. So depending on how much cassava is put in there, 10 to 15 tons of cassava is supposed to be given out every hour. That here our capacity is 300 tons per day. Yeah, so 300 tons. That's about multiplying by 20. If you want to do it by kg, multiply by 1,000. That's 300,000 kg a day. Yes.
Ghana is ranked the third in cassava producing countries in the world, but processing of the crop is lagging. Napoleon T. Matthew is the administrator for the Mountain Agro-Processing Factory in the Bono East region.
So first of all, it's being portrayed as the biggest starch factory in Africa because of the capacity of produce that we are going to be having in the nearest future. Now, every day we are producing 300 tons of industrial starch, and we are going to be employing about 3,000 direct and indirect workers. Now, with these direct and indirect workers, we are also going to give opportunities to farmers around where we find ourselves. When I say where we find ourselves, this factory is placed in the Atebubu Amantin Municipal Assembly. And because of the factory, the farmers are going to run from Atebubu Amantin to even Kintampo and Kwame Danso and its environs. So we are going to have about 15,000 farmers who will be supplying their produce to this company. Currently, our farm base, the Nucros farm, we have about 18,000 acres of cassava. And that alone, looking at the number of people we've employed to work on the farm, these are the things that we've put together to say, indeed, this is the biggest starch factory in West Africa. And because we'll be running for 300 days, so if you do the calculation of our produce annually, it means we can stand the market when it comes to starch, industrial starch.
What kind of market are you looking at?
We are looking at the local markets and the international markets. The local markets needs a lot of starch because starch is used for pharmaceutical products. It's also used for the likes of yogurt, the likes of alcoholic beverages as well. So even as we speak, companies like Fan Milk Ghana, Cassava, and let me say Guinness Ghana, they are on standby to see what we are going to produce, and they are ready to buy from us. And we are looking at the international market as well.
He believes starch production locally will reduce government import burden, expand the agri value chain, and enhance local economies. It is obvious that the industrialization of the crop cassava is critical to economically empower not only the Ghanaian farmer, but will bring hope into agriculture.
In our daily lives, we consume more starch because if you are sick, you need medicine or tablets to take care of yourself. This product is used for pharmaceutical products. Beverages, you also need starch as additives or supplements to ensure that you are able to produce well. And I use my age as an example. I'm 44 years now, and if I'm 44 years, I've been taking milk for a long time. I'm sure I take beverages as well. I take some alcohol, and all the starch that is used in Ghana as we speak today is imported. So if we are able to produce industrial starch, which that is what we are going to do in some months to come, then definitely it's a good commodity that will also help the country as well. If you are farming cassava today and you think it's just being used for fufu, that era is past and gone. We are in the era of where we use cassava to make good money. So I will entreat people who are finding it difficult to find one job or the other to come to our territory, to come and farm cassava for us, because we need more cassava to ensure.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Food Chain. I believe that the necessary authorities and stakeholders put in the measures to ensure that this crop do justice to our economy. My name is Prince Apia. Until we meet again in our next edition, thank you for staying with us.